Bryce Hall with an opportunity this Sunday, not just to prove he belongs, but to breathe a little bit of life into this 2020 New York Jets draft class that so many had written off as a complete waste. I'm Glenn Norton with JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. So, as I said the other day, Bryce Hall, give the guy credit, went out there against the Broncos and far exceeded anyone's expectations. I don't care what anybody says. I didn't see one positive person have one positive thing to say about him before that game. And Bryce Hall's an interesting guy, right? Here's a player who was taken 158th overall. A lot of outlets had him as a top 100 player. He had the leg injury at Virginia, ends up missing time as a rookie while he's rehabbing. Year two, he starts 17 games and he looks okay. He doesn't look great. You're not thinking it's the second coming of Darrelle Revis, but you're thinking, okay, we got a solid corner. This guy can be a number two type. Then, for whatever reason, I mean, like he fell out of favor with the coaches, but if we're being fair, he wasn't playing that well in what little action he was getting, whether it was a preseason training camp. And so he kind of was pushed to the back burner. And we didn't see him much at all. Last year, I think he played a total of 15 snaps. And you came into this year thinking, well, he's gone. And we saw it from the beat writers, from the fans. Many times I've seen that, this draft class tweeted out, Mekhi Becton, bust. Bryce Hall, Bryce Hall, another bust, and Ashtyn Davis is going to be gone. And a lot of I didn't disagree. I thought Hall had kind of fallen off, didn't know why, but you're looking at him thinking he doesn't look as good as he did in year two. Ashtyn Davis, a lot of missed tackles, bad angles, all that stuff. You're thinking, oh, he's probably gone after this year. Is what you were thinking last season, at least what I was thinking. And then Davis all of a sudden comes in and has himself a really good training camp, really good preseason games. Had a couple games in a row where at least I looked at him and I thought this is the best he's ever looked. And I get that it's preseason. Like let's not get carried away. It's only preseason action, but he still looked like he was in the right place at the right time far more often than we've ever seen from him. So you're like, all right, maybe we're seeing some growth from this kid. And then Bryce Hall. I didn't think Bryce Hall would make the 53 after the way he wasn't used last year, wasn't doing a whole lot this preseason. He ends up sticking around. He starts the other day against Denver, has himself a really nice game. Now look, whether or not you view this class as, let's here's a hypothetical. Let's say Becton plays often enough, let's say he doesn't miss much time this year and he hangs around. And let's say Davis hangs around as a backup and Hall, same for Hall. There are some people who wouldn't consider that a decent class because, and I put this on Madden and so many people playing Madden that I think a lot of, I've literally heard people say that if you don't get four starters in a draft class, it's a bust, a bad class. That's not reality. Um, GMs miss on 50% of their picks, right? You get seven. And when I say miss, I don't mean starters. I mean guys who just play for a while, considering those guys hits. A good class, good class gets you a couple starters, maybe, and a backup or two. And you get three guys out of your seven picks because, that's the hit rate. Generally, just below 50% is the percentage of picks that hang around and plays multiple years. So by that standard, getting three guys, which again, I'm not saying the Jets know they've got three guys. I'm saying Bryce Hall this Sunday can show that they have three guys, and he's going to give up some plays this Sunday. Don't get me wrong. This Eagles defense or this Eagles offense, they can pass protect up front. They've got a dynamic elite duo of receivers. They're going to make their plays regardless. They make their plays against top tier, high end starters. Of these upper echelon corners give up plays to these guys. Bryce Hall will certainly be giving up plays to these guys. But if he can hold his own, make it, limit the damage that Philadelphia is able to do, and he may have some more starts coming. DJ Reed still hasn't cleared concussion protocol. Brandon Eccles still out with the hamstring. So who knows when Hall will get back on the field. But right now, what the Jets know is they've got a left tackle in Mekhi Becton who still has more to prove. Even if you're like me and you love the pick and you thought he would bounce back and play well, which he has, you have to acknowledge the fact that the injury history is significant enough that until you see a year or two out of him with very limited missed time, you're always gonna be wondering. But he's doing it right now. He's proven it right now. Um, Hall, and then of course Ashtyn Davis, who's a backup safety at this point, quality special teamer, had the interception against Kansas City. So you've now got a class that a lot of people had written off as everyone's gone. Hall's going to be gone. Davis is going to be gone. Becton's never going to play again. If he does, he'll only last one game. And now instead, it's oh well, Becton is staying on the field and playing well, not playing perfect. Ashtyn Davis looks like a better player, managed to stick on the roster, has made, a couple plays on defense, and is a solid special teams player. And then Hall looks like he could be positioning himself as a solid backup corner, which again doesn't make it a great draft class, but makes it a far cry from a complete whiff. And to me, look, to each his own with this stuff, right? People define bust differently. People define hit, success rate, whatever. All everyone seems to have their own idea of what's what. To me, I feel like if you only hit on 2 or 3 picks in a class, but one of those guys is a premium position, a tackle, an edge, a corner, a quarterback, that boosts that grade because those are the positions you've got to be strong at if you want to compete. And right now, Mekhi Becton, while not playing to his ceiling, probably just had his best game, if we're being fair. Remember, he started out at right tackle, made that transition back to the left, which he hadn't played in a couple years, and now we're seeing him play better and better as the weeks go on. So if Mekhi Becton starts playing at or near his ceiling, and Hall proves he can be a solid backup, and Davis can be a special teamer who can chip in on as a backup as well from time to time, you're not looking at a class that you can say, all right, that's a C minus class, maybe a C, which isn't great, but it's sure as hell better than an F with every guy on every guy that was picked is either already off the roster or out of the league, which is what a lot of people were expecting probably 6, 7, 8 months ago. So a lot of it's on Hall. Again, I don't expect him to go in and shut anybody down this week. Don't expect anyone to shut down even Sauce Gardner. There's some concerns now. He missed practice the other day. I'm sure he'll play, but is he going to be 100%? So this is going to be a long day for the Jets. I expect it to be a really rough game. The only thing that really the X factor again, as it will probably be more weeks than not, is going to be Zach Wilson. How well does he play? How aggressive are they with the play calling? Is Nathaniel Hackett going to let him throw the ball in big spots, or are we going to see more of the red zone run game where they just pound it and they don't trust Zach to make a play in the red zone? Um, I've watched a little bit of Philly since watched. I talked about this the other day on a show and said that saw somebody comment that Philly's red zone defense has been in shambles. They haven't looked great. You saw what happened against Washington. Sam Howell torched them, and with Zach Wilson at this point, it really feels like the biggest thing, and I'm not saying he's going to have a breakout game against the Eagles, but the biggest thing stopping him from a breakout game against anyone is still the conservative play calling. We're not seeing a lot of shots down the field, which again, I understand could be Zach. I understand we don't, without being in that huddle, in that quarterback room, in that offensive meeting, we don't know if it's the Jets holding him back a little bit or if it's Zach checking down and not hitting deep shots. If I had to guess, I would say it's probably more to do with the coaching because we're seeing just how conservative they're being in the red zone. That kind of suggests that they're not letting Zach make big throws, try to make big throws, unless they're absolutely forced to in a big spot, like the other day, the throw to Conklin where it's 3rd and 6 and you have to convert. You've got to let him throw in that spot. So hopefully a little bit less predictable on offense in the red zone. Hopefully let Zach throw it a little more. Still don't expect to win. As I said the other day with on Jet Nation Live with myself and Chris Schubert, expect Philly to win this game. But as I always say, come kickoff, I'll be picking the Jets. But right now, with looking things in a less fired up, emotional state, I think Philly wins this game. But I think it's a big game for Bryce Hall and a big game for that 2020 class. They try to say maybe we've got 2 or 3 guys who can play and we're not just a bunch of guys who didn't make it into the league and were washed out in a couple of years. That'll do it for this one. Have a good one, Jets fans.